We're going to call the Horry County Solid Waste Authority regular meeting Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017 to order. We're going to have Mr. Dan Gray do the invitation, and Mr. Michael Campbell will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we ask for your divine guidance in our deliberations this evening. Make sure that we do the right thing for the right reasons in Horry County. It's your name we ask. Amen.
Let's face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we now need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second, the motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been passed. We have 3 sets of minutes. Okay. Okay. We have 3 sets of minutes. The first one is April the 25th, 2017, for our regular meeting. Do we have any discussion, any changes, or a motion to approve?
I make a move. Approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The regular meeting minutes have been approved. We have May the 4th, 2017 special board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
You done this.
Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The special board meeting minutes have been approved. May the 4th, 2017, the public hearing minutes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The May 4th public hearing meetings have been approved. Our next agenda item is public input. Mr. Carl Schwarzkopf, if you would come to the podium. Mr. Schwarzkopf has been a Horry County councilman for quite some time, and we sure do appreciate you coming to speak with us.
Thank you, Pam. For all the years I was on county council, I'm sure that Pam Creech had my phone number on speed dial. And I had an experience last Saturday that I basically thought was exceptional, and it was a direct relation to the Solid Waste Authority, and I called her up and told her of my wonderful experience, minus one incident, and she said that I should come to public input and share that with you. And first thing I'd like to share with Michael Hughes is all the years we spent at Tech. You know that my lectures were 55 minutes in length. I want you to realize I can do this in less than 5 minutes. Okay, that's what you're hoping. So this is basically one of these good news, bad news presentations. The good news is that last Saturday, I participated in the paint, pesticide, household chemical disposal program that you had here. And all I can say was absolutely a wonderful experience. That's the good news. The bad news is that I arrived at 10 o'clock, and I was standing parked at the gate waiting to get in. I look, and man, there's like 10 cars in front of me, and there's several qualities in life that I'm missing, and one of them is patience. Everybody says a good thing. I got a PhD, but not a doctor, because if I was an MD, I wouldn't do very well in the patience department. But so I looked behind me in the line. It was just like when I was standing in line when I was on active duty. The line always seemed to get longer behind you than it did in front of you. But ultimately, after about 40 minutes, I got to the front of the line. And that's the bad news. The good news is that I did get to see Wayne while I was standing in line and had a brief conversation with him. One of the things that Wayne mentioned that had really concerned me is that he mentioned how many of the containers already were full. The shipping crates already were full. And I got this panic going through my mind, is they're going to have enough room for my stuff? But fortunately, I got there, and the fellas that unloaded the trunk of my car, all I can say is if they were farmers, that they'd be outstanding in their field. They had great patience, they had great understanding, they were very courteous, but more important than that, they were like the pitcher on a mound in a baseball game who gets the ball hit back to him, and he's standing there holding the ball, and he doesn't know if he should throw it to the guy at third or if he should throw it to the guy at first. And he stands there, he's holding the ball. Meanwhile, the guy is safe at first, and the guy is safe at third. The guys out there that were sorting the pesticides, the paint, and whatever else, they didn't have any problem at all making a decision. They were just absolutely super. They were really courteous. They were really great guys. So in my opinion, you've got a fantastic program here. There's only one thing wrong with it, and that's that, A, too many people are using it. And being a disciple of the Buckminster Fuller philosophy and coming up with trying to make things more efficient, more effective, I've got some suggestions for you, not necessarily any special priority, but one of them is that you probably add one more Saturday to the month, and I don't care when it is. Maybe if you don't want to do a Saturday, do a Wednesday or Thursday or whatever else. That's why you're getting paid the bucks you are. At least that's what they told me on county council. You make the decisions. This is my complaint. You come up with a solution. The other thing is you might be able to restructure the facility so you have two drop-off lines. And the other thing is there's people in Myrtle Beach and probably Socastee and wherever else, and Loris, that probably figure it's a long way to drive, so you may want to consider having some satellite or some substations. And the other thing is it may have been an error in judgment on my part, which is a fancy way of saying I made a mistake. If I would have showed up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I probably could have gone right straight to the head of the line and never would have had the chance to have a conversation with Wayne or anybody else out there. I wouldn't. Okay, well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that you're busy all the time. So therefore, maybe expanding the program at one other thing. Those are basically 4 suggestions. The 5th one I've got is based on one of the major decisions that always happens in management, is that you do absolutely nothing. You continue to do what you're doing and hope for the best. And I'm going to leave the decision to you. I remember when I was chairman of the I&R committee at one time, and Steve Gosnell was sitting in the chair, and so was Danny Knight. And this was the day when Horry County was growing rapidly, and building permits where people were standing in line. It was like a delicatessen down the planning house. You had to get a number and stand in line until they called your number to get your permits and whatever else. And these builders, contractors showed up, and they were complaining about the long lines and how long you have to wait for the inspections and whatever else. And I asked, and there were like about 5 or 6 builders there, and I asked them if they had any solution, any suggestions. And they kind of stared me down as chairman of the I&R committee, and they said, "We figure that's your problem, you can solve it." I said, "I've got a solution, but you may not like it." They said, "What is it?" And I said, "We will raise the fees." And they kind of look at each other. I said, "But we'll hire more people." And their answer was, "We don't care. We got people fighting, standing in line, fighting to buy these houses, and they're willing to pay whatever the fee is, so raise the fee and get us more inspectors." So I will leave that management philosophy with you and say thank you for the opportunity to be here, and you got a great program, and keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You have a question?
No, sir,
Just carry on. Those days are over. Those days are over. I just worry about those days once a month. That's when I look at the bank statement and see if they're still sending my check.
We appreciate you coming. I wish a lot of citizens would come and discuss some of those things with us and tell us what we're doing right and wrong.
You're
We
doing a lot
will.
of things right.
Thank you. We will be discussing, because so many people have the toxic stuff, that we don't want them pouring in ditches or on their property or anything. So we will be discussing having another day here. After you talked with me, I talked with Esther, and I found out that the reason we couldn't enact something like that at the recycling centers was because to do that, we have to have someone on site that is certified, and the bins to put that in are like $25,000 a piece.
Okay.
So we're going to have to do it here, but I'll let Danny Knight tell you, but we would like to do it more often than we do, just to make sure that it's handled properly.
Monday morning, Andy, one of the guys that helped you get the stuff out of the car, he passed the office and asked him how his weekend went, and did he run his dog Saturday? And he said, "Yeah, I run one dog, me, all day." And we got to talking about how it was backed up and everything. So we started then, got Stephanie down, and we started talking then about what we do during the course of this year. And instead of amending the budget, anything like that, I think we can do some stuff within the budget to maybe have 3 or 4 days here, another weekend or something like that. But it is growing, and as Wayne said, when we started, it wasn't much going on with it. But now people, and we have people coming during the week making appointments, and the 2 guys that worked Saturday had to be off, one yesterday, one another day this week to keep out of overtime, so it takes away from their job. So we'll somewhat solve it this year, but it'd be hard to raise the fee on this thing. How much did you pay Saturday?
They basically looked at me and they said, "You're an old man. I know that you're on retirement, you're on fixed income, and all this other stuff here, and the sooner we get you unloaded, the sooner we'll get you out of here and let some paying customers in here, so please move on quickly."
Next time we'll charge you double.
Okay.
That is one of the services that we offer that we do, that costs us money.
Okay.
Because it is a good service and it's
Yeah.
needed, we don't charge.
The other
Is
thing
there still a limit to how much you can bring?
Yes, sir.
Some people have to take some back home with them.
Lance, the lady in front of me was driving a VW Beetle, and well, I almost felt like I was at the circus when you see this VW Beetle pull in the center of the circus and all these clowns get
Right.
out, and you wonder, the clowns ever going to stop? Man, live, this lady has set some kind of a record for how many gallons of paint and pesticides and Clorox bottles, et cetera, she could get in that VW Beetle. It was unbelievable. So, well, Danny, all I can say is I'm glad to hear that you're talking about this. You're making, great minds traveling the same direction. Some just get there a little quicker than others. And the other thing, the only disappointment I really had is that the store was closed on Saturday morning. But as I was driving back to Conway, I said, well, this is really good because I am the true redneck, according to Jeff Foxworth. I'm the guy that comes to the dump, and I always take more home than I bring. And so the store being closed basically helped me not meet that requirement or that qualification. But every time I go through the store, I'm just absolutely amazed, and I say, this is really great because if this stuff wouldn't be here, it would probably be in the landfill.
Right.
So I think the store is a great idea. And I remember the day that Danny Knight and Esther and a couple of others, we went to Ann Arbor to look at their facility. I want all the people that are conscious about budgets. I mean, like Mr. Gray, I know he's really conscious about budgets. Anita and I, we paid for our own trip to Ann Arbor. The Solid Waste Authority did not pay for that. Okay. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
See, Mike, I told you, it doesn't be 55 minutes.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for being here.
You were getting close.
Thank you. Okay, we have no other public input, so we're going to go right into departmental reports and updates. Recycling and Corporate Affairs is first.
Good evening.
Hello.
My report begins on page 21. I've got a partner with me this evening. I'm going to begin tonight with our Recycling Student of the Year.
Oh.
Mr. Trace Tompkins, first grader at Conway Elementary School, was unanimously selected as our Recycling Student of the Year. Trace does an outstanding job in recycling, not just at school, not just at home, but he's convinced his father, Jim, his mother, Charlotte, and even his little sister, Alea, to all pitch in and help do this too. I'm going to read just a couple of tidbits from the application that came in for Trace. Trace said I can speak on his behalf tonight for him. So, in Trace's application, he informed us that he thought he should be our Recycling Student of the Year because he tries to recycle as much as he can. He brings in lots of bags of recyclables to his school. He picks up trash along the side of the road and in parking lots. He gets recyclables from his family, his friends, and his daddy's work. He sorted the recyclables with his dad and his sister, and he recycles all year long, not just while we're having a contest at school. Trace also said he's asked his family, his friends, his classmates, and people at his daddy's work to recycle every day to help the earth and soil. He also taught his sister how to sort recyclables. So I'm hiring people. I'm just saying. I'm just hiring the people. The physical education teacher, Mr. Wheeler at Conway Elementary, wrote a very detailed recommendation for Trace. And one of the things that he mentioned was Trace single-handedly has bought in more recycled items than any one student and more than some classes combined at Conway Elementary School. He also said Trace may be young, but he would put his passion for making the world around him better up against anyone. When we went to Conway Elementary, Trace didn't know we were coming. He didn't know he had won. So Victoria and I went. Victoria was up before his class in the cafeteria, in the gym. And Victoria was going through her, speech and about how great it is to be a recycling person. And people who recycle are heroes. And she said, y'all have a recycling hero right here in your class. And they all looked and said, it's Trace. And nobody prompted them. They didn't look around and said, is it me? I would have said that. I would say, is it me? But they all looked and said, it's Trace. So the honor is well deserved. There's some pictures on the screen that aren't in your packet of him actually in action, along with his sister. And I told him if he wanted to, he can speak to y'all. But look at Alea. See, that's what we're talking about. He's teaching them young too. But we're very proud of him and all that he's doing at such a young age. So we're looking forward to great things from Trace, not just now, but definitely in the future. Any words? Or you good?
I love recycling.
Yeah, all right.
I think Trace is going to do a wave this time. We're going to wave. Yeah, there we go. He's adorable. I love my job. All right. Next in my report, I wanted to give you an update on the annual progress report. This is the report that we complete through DHEC to determine recycling rates for counties. I indicated back in September that we had completed the report and submitted it to DHEC. We received the results back this month, and it was even discussed some at the SWANA conference. In reviewing the rates for Horry County did see a slight decrease from last year's recycling rate, went from 32.7% down to 30.28%. We always take the time to look and see if we can determine why. We had some areas that went up, or at least one in particular in metals. We had several areas that went down. But we did find, based on those who completed reports through us, and then talking to DHEC, there were several, over 10 to be exact, businesses that did not report any recycling tonnage for the last fiscal year. As we say every single year, reporting your recycling and waste to DHEC is mandatory for counties and municipalities, colleges, universities. It is not for businesses, so they can or they cannot, whichever they choose to do. So until that is a mandatory reporting for businesses, we'll always see numbers fluctuate back and forth, just depending on sometimes whether or not they chose to report. Let's see, a DHEC grant update. Back in February, we submitted several grant applications to DHEC. We received notification this month of those that we were awarded. Thankfully, we were awarded just about everything we requested, with the exception of one of the solid waste grants for increased collection. you could ask for up to up to $50,000. So I did, because I do. However, they had so many applications that came in that they wanted to kind of spread the money out a little bit further. So they awarded, I believe they told me, 4 at $50,000, and then they did several others at reduced rates, just to be able to spread that money out a little bit further. So we're thankful for what we did receive. So to date, for fiscal year 18, we're at $175,608 in grant funding. And let's see, caught green-handed. Mr. Michael Davidson was caught green-handed at the Dog Bluff Recycling Center this month, and he was definitely pleased with being named our recipient for the month of May, and very excited about his gifts for doing so. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention to you, you have, and we'll mention again next month, you were given your invitations to our environmental awards banquet, which will be on July 19th. It will be here in this room at 12 noon. We hope you all are able to come out and join us that day.
It says July 13th on
Oh,
the
does it?
invitation.
Oh, man, it's the 13th then. Believe the invitation, don't believe me. Believe the invitation. Any questions?
Any
Thank you.
questions of Ms. Murphy? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Operations and planning,
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
A couple updates for this month. My report begins on page 28. Our driver of the month is Ron Granger from the Solid Waste Authority. We've been doing this program now for better than 6 years and have not had one of our employees up there. And talked with our staff out there, and we've got some outstanding operators out on that landfill. And Ron came to us. He was a young man, very, very young. You can see he's not real old right here. He's been with us 10 years, very respectful of staff, very respectful of customers. Hit some great numbers out there on compaction, and staff out there on the landfill felt that Ron was very deserving for our driver/operator of the month. So we were very proud to be able to nominate him and put his picture up in the scale house for this month. Secondly, we had a customer meeting, April 26th. We had about 20 of our customers come in, private and public customers came in. We wanted to talk to them about the new tarping procedures that were out there, the plastic in the plastic bags and yard waste, the proposed tip and fee, and just any other discussion that they had. A good meeting. We had some good questions in there. Found out that enforcement's been doing some patrols out there on Highway 90 and been issuing some tickets. A couple folks actually kind of told us that I guess the fine maybe was around $400 or $500. Went to court, I guess they reduced it, but the drivers were more concerned that the tickets stayed on their record as a misdemeanor for 3 years. That bothered them more really than the fine, and it appears that the hauling companies are having the driver pay it. So what we've noticed, I told staff this morning, one of the big things that we've noticed is there's definitely more tarps on customers coming through, and there's a lot more new tarps where we had people coming in where they were shredded or torn, that kind of thing. And especially when you watch the inbound camera, it points right down on the tarp in there. There's a lot of, especially on the bigger haulers, they've beefed up the tarp system out there and make sure they're all working. And for the most part, they're hauling it, you know, keeping the tarp on until they get to the cell. We told them, even though our signs and all say May 1st, we wanted to give them a little bit extra time. Next Thursday, June 1st, that's when we really start our enforcement here on the landfill. Hopefully, we'll see some more patrols out on Highway 90 doing their thing out there. But a couple things in here. Back in April, the blue picture that you have there in your board report, We started handing out at the scale house in April. So people had plenty of notice. This was kind of early April. We started putting that out after the momentum started to increase in here. We started putting that out. Then the sign that you see there in your board packet, we've got them on every working face out there, yard waste, C&D, solid waste, everywhere out there. They're at the entrance to the landfill. When you exit the landfill, we've gave them all the notification I think you can humanly possibly do of they got to have a tarp on their load when they come in. So we have seen a big increase, the awareness of the haulers out there. So hopefully it's going to help the appearance out on Highway 90 and other streets in the county. So, any questions?
I will back up what you said about county, I guess, county policemen going to work on this tarp business. I called Danny, left a message. I hope you got it, Danny, but I was leaving here, and, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm dunderhead. I need to sit in the chair. I was leaving here, and we had, I think, one of the very first times we talked about the necessity and need to do this and how to go about it. And as I was leaving, a county policeman had, I won't mention the name of the company, but he had a tarp, but it was leaking on the sides. Like you say, it's kind of ragged. But I imagine the next time he came back over here, he had a new one, because like you, I have been looking at it, and I've seen a lot of new ones. I mean, they're not even dirty yet.
Yeah, I think if they're spilling any trash, I think they're going to stop them, tarp or no tarp. That's the impression we've got, as many new ones as we've seen on the bigger roll-off trucks coming through.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Bill. Finance and Administration.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Financial reports begin on page 37, and I'm going to begin, of course, on the summary sheet on page 38. We are now through the end of April. We should be at around a little over 83% of budget. As you can see, we continue to remain above budget in our tipping fees. Solid waste is a little over 87% of budget. Our mixed construction at over 138% of budget, and our yard waste well over 142% of budget. So again, those remain quite strong. As you can see, our tipping fee revenues over last year, the same time, we're seeing about a 14% increase in those tipping fee revenues. That's definitely a plus, and of course, I still contribute a good portion of that to the storm, but we're also seeing a good increase, of course, due to the economy as well. As you can see, the recyclable sales are at 105.37% of budget, so they as well are well above what we had anticipated for the year. The C&D processing facility, their revenue year-to-date, $319,719.55. Their expenses being $483,795.16, and they've saved 61.87 days of airspace. The C&D material that we've taken out of the C&D processing facility and sent over to Sandlands and to Florence has saved a little over 7 days of airspace at 7.44 days of airspace. Our materials recycling facility with the collection and hauling program together has saved 58.11 days of airspace. Their revenue year-to-date, $4,933,317.53. Their expenses being $4,824,686.29. So they're continuing to run with their revenue over expenses for those two programs together. I'd like to turn over to page 40, to the income statement. As you can see there, again, we had a good month. Current month revenue over expenses of $196,055.21, and year-to-date, $3,237,451.31. As you can see, our revenue is running at 88.77% of budget, and our expenses at 75.24% of budget. Like I said, as we're getting here to the end of the year, this is usually some of our expensive months. Staff is continuing to do a great job of watching their expenses. Like I said, with our expenses not exceeding budget, they're keeping them well under. I'd like to take a look over on page 41. Just one area I kind of wanted to point out to you on the revenue is under the C&D recycling, which is right in the middle of the page. You'll see the C&D recycling, the colored mulch. As you can see, that was a revenue source that we had not budgeted for this year. And I just wanted to point out what a good job, Bill and the staff constantly are looking at ways to generate additional revenue. As you can see, just year to date, they've generated a little over $46,000 in additional revenue with taking the wood chips and coloring them and selling them. Bill mentioned today that it's kind of slowed down a little bit. We did have a great, influx, of course, as people start getting out in their yards and doing a lot of cleanup. It slowed down a little bit, but, still, like I said, it'll continue for a little while longer, but a great opportunity that they took and, invested in, and it's definitely paid off. They continue to profit there for sure. If you look on that page, as you can see down at the subtotal line, our actual revenue really is at 102.86%. Because like I said, down below that we have the unincorporated collection system, which we all know is kind of a pass-through, a wash-through, and then of course our store. So when you look at that, our revenue is well above what we anticipated for the year. With that being said, I also was going to take a look at page 42. Like I said, on the expenses side, as you can see, each of the departments continue to maintain, like I said, they're all well below, like I said, their budget. And well below where we need to be. You see a couple little areas, the landfill division, and of course the MRF that are slightly above. A lot of that has to do with the storm for the landfill division. And, of course, with the MRF, with the Charleston, like I said, they continue to run a little bit above. But overall, like I said, they're doing quite well. And as you can see, based on the subtotal, we're at 82.45% of budget. So, like I said, we're still maintaining well below. Over on page 48. This is, of course, our C&D recycling facility. I just want to point on the bottom of that page, Mr. Gray, that's the one area that you kind of like for me to monitor and mention to you. And the bottom of the page shows the percent of trucks that went up on our landfill versus went over the C&D recycling facility. And as you can see, we did have an increase for the month. 11% of the trucks went over the C&D recycling facility, and 89% went up on the hill this month. So they, like I said, they were able to divert a few more over there this month.
Thank you.
Page 52, briefly go over some of the Charleston information for you. And I know some of you have heard this at the Finance Committee meeting. But like I said, prices were down this month as we had anticipated. The average price dropped to $173.64 per ton. Last month, we were at $234.48. And we did anticipate that. We are seeing that the prices have kind of stabilized. We haven't seen any more decrease. As a matter of fact, we've seen maybe a slight increase in the prices. So like I said, so we're definitely at a positive there, no more drastic changes. The tonnage that we sold this month was 2,192.48 tons versus last month where we sold 2,714.62 tons. So that also is, like I said, a slight decrease. And a big portion of that has to do with the Charleston tonnage. We didn't take as much Charleston tonnage in this month, so we didn't have quite as much to sell as well. Total incoming tonnage for the month was 3,976.28 tons versus last month was 4,563.28. So we're hoping to get some of that back up and going again. As you can see, the total MRF revenue for the month, $376,321.48. The expenses are $291,465.60. So for the month, we had revenue over expenses of $84,855.88. Year to date, we've seen a revenue over expenses of $722,371.83. We're continuing to move in the right direction. On the bottom of the page, I'd just like to point out, if you can see the outgoing tonnage from the C&D recycling facility just for the month of April, Bill was able to send out 1,895.93 tons of material out of there. And year to date, we've sent 3,276.34 tons from the C&D recycling facility, and the tonnage going back to Charleston year to date is 4,069.16 tons. We're still working to get that caught up. I think Bill told me we're still maybe about 4 days behind on that, but we're, like I said, we're getting it caught up in quite a hurry, so we anticipate having that caught up shortly. The next thing I'm going to go over to, of course, is on page 59. Like I said, we try to look at this every quarter. And what this is through, this is our quarterly transfer that we look at. And according to our policy, we're to maintain 15% of our estimated annual revenues. And after looking at it through March 31st, 2017, like I said, we've been very fortunate. We've had a very good year. There was an overage of $2,189,420 for us to be able to transfer. In looking at where we possibly need to look at that, transfer that money, of course, the first area that we always look at is our MRF contingency. According to the policy, that's the one area. If there's a profit in that area, we're to transfer money into that account. I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you the last time that we were able to transfer money into that account. It might have been when we first set up the policy. But this is the first time that, according to the policy, we have $180,472 to transfer into the MRF contingency, which I think is outstanding. I think it says a lot about what they're doing over there, how they're maintaining their expenses and generating the revenue. I'd like to put $1.2 million into the contingency for the construction for Piggyback. As we know that we just finished that phase 1, and we were a little bit short as we had anticipated in that account, so this will help make that up, as well as to start putting money aside for the next phase, as that will be our next project. So I'd like to go ahead and transfer $1.2 million there. And the remaining balance of the $808,948, I'd like to remain in unrestricted funds to help purchase some of those capital items that we have marked as E in the budget. We've currently already had to purchase some of those items through the year, of course. We had to upgrade our fuel system. We had 2 light towers that we had to purchase, a trash compactor, a metering drum that they've mentioned over at the MRF. So those are some of the bigger items that we've already had to purchase through the year, which was totaled about $188,000. Some items that we've got left that we'd like to purchase with the use of this money is a wheel loader for Bill to use over the C&D processing facility, some security lighting that he'd like to use out on the landfill, microphones for this area. I know that's been kind of a big thing for everybody, and we'd like to look into doing the wireless microphones. That way, Mr. Gray, you wouldn't have to worry about that microphone anymore. And of course, one of the big items is the storage facility over at the MRF for the material. So those are some of the items that we're looking for, which is why I'd like to be able to keep that money in the unrestricted funds for them to be able to do so. So I'm just looking for the board's approval to make those transfers.
I have one question.
Mr. Gray?
And I'm talking like I'm supposed to. You mentioned the storage facility, and I know at certain times the curb work probably got more on hand than we would like. Are you saying with this transfer of funds that we would then have the money necessary to go ahead and build it? And since we know we need it, it's likely that we will build it.
Yes, sir. As long as we can find the place in on our property to put it, yes, sir, funds will be available for them to go ahead and build that facility.
If I remember, it was roughly 10,000 square feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, we will accept the motion.
I make a motion we accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Biddy?
Thank you.
Recycling services and special projects.
Mike's had a doctor's appointment today, but I think Jan has made the point that we made money again this month, and we'll continue to worry him to death with belts and sprockets and wheels and overtime and temporary help. But and we'll get into my part of it. Let you know we got the Charleston contract yesterday. They've signed it. We'll go ahead and get it signed and get it back to them tomorrow.
Was it essentially the same thing that we went over here?
Yes, sir. It's
Carte blanche. Yeah.
the 3 items that we added, everything's in place. They've got it, they got it turned around. So we will, we'll get it to them tomorrow.
You done good on that one.
Well, it's been a challenge, Mr. Gray.
I
at
know.
best. But we did go down to the groundbreaking for their MRF, and Mr. Hughes, Mr. Gray, and I drove down, and I must say it was probably the most unique groundbreaking that I've ever attended. But since we got the contract signed, it was a good time.
That kind of colors it, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. And we put some of the newspaper articles in the packet, the equipment layout, and it's gonna be a pretty neat operation. And like I say, I will get the contract out tomorrow and get that moving on. And the contract will start August 1st. New contract August 1st through January 31st, and that's the 6 months. And then they've got 2 more that they will ask for extensions on a 6-month basis. And we'll just keep that flipper file moving so we'll know what dates they need to get it to us and everything, so.
Andy, did they execute a contract on the construction and/or equipment? Do you know, or?
They hadn't last week, so I don't know what it is, but, you know, they got some time, and hopefully they'll get it done.
Thank you.
Is there a reason for the word and the definition we have here?
Yes, ma'am, but since we got the contract, I won't, they said that our contract was that.
My. And they signed it?
Now, we've got it, and we'll move on. Yeah. The SWANA conference, one of the things that Esther talked about was the recycling rate. That recycling rate is not the Odie County Solid Waste Authority recycling rate. That's the county-wide, everybody's rate. And I don't think, and DHEC said at the conference that till it's mandatory reporting, I don't think we'll ever see any figures that you can really put you what's going on. One of the other things we talked about was financial assurances. DHEC's really getting into making sure the financial assurances are in place for public and private and all the facilities, which it's good to hear that they're doing that. And safety is a big push, both in the state, us, Bill has safety meetings all the time. And National is involved in it, and I think we're, right now, solid waste work is about the 5th most dangerous job in the United States. So, recycling rate by 2030 is going to be about 40%, and I really don't think until the state looks at the tourist population more so than they're looking at it today, I don't think we'll ever meet it. You know, that's another one of those things that they take that sales tax on all the food at Food Line, but when they figure the recycling rate, they base it on the permanent population, like they get money back from the sales tax based on permanent population. So I think that's one thing that we need to look at, talk with them more this year about that. Garrett Moore did a fine presentation on the piggyback, a lot of pictures, explained it to the group, and I think the group enjoyed it very well. I kept watching to see how much attention they were paying to it, and I think it was a very good presentation. So we were in the limelight again at the state. So, and that's my presentation, Chairman.
Do any of the other board members have anything they wish to share from the conference?
I don't know if this is a need, but I will, going back to the groundbreaking, and We love our Charleston people, but I can say that that was more like hee-haw program. I say that with love, but the other side of that coin is that Esther and our staff would have done a much better job. But, I mean, they signed the paper. And I looked over the facility that they had. Of course, it's just a schematic, but I was thinking, well, they're going to process twice as much as we do on ours, and theirs is going to grow more than where it is now. Plus, they're talking about possible outreach to other counties. I hope that they can move feedstock, as they call it, at a rate they got projected, but again, that's their problem. I would not be surprised if after a period of time, they might be coming back saying if we could help them out a little bit more.
Well, we'll see.
I would like to say I thought it was a good conference. There were a lot of things that were of interest, and I always enjoy it when the EPA and DHEC, the rules and regulations, and they can tell us what to look for in the future and how to plan. I invited the Conway mayor to go. She did go for 2 days. She thoroughly enjoyed it, and it is amazing. You can call them our clients or whatever, but when our customers, like the mayor, actually as I sat in front of her, a lot of the things that she saw that we had discussed with the League of Cities, she would say to me, well, now I know why you're doing that. It might have been in a list and you talking about it, but when you actually see a presentation and it's very detailed, I now understand what closure and post-closure is and why we need that much money and why it needs to be set aside and done that way. And I now understand why it costs so much and what your environmental issues are, and to see things that are actually closed. So I think we need to give more information to some of the city and county council people and the mayors so that they can go, because she said she really intended to go next year with what she learned and what she knew then. She could also plan some issues that Conway has and to work with that. And I just think those conferences are great, not only for the board members, but the other people that we deal with here, because it's really hard to wrap your mind around everything that's going on here unless you can see it in some of those ways. So I just thought it was an excellent conference. I really appreciate her going, and I hope we have more people like that go in the future.
If I could follow up on that, we've been friends for a long time, so I watched her. I noticed that she didn't move without Esther being right there with her. I think Esther must have been coaching her a little bit. But the thing that was impressive, you know, you could have something presented, but how much of it do you absorb and comprehend? And after almost every speaker sat down, she asked very intelligent questions.
She did.
And
Right.
I was impressed. Is she a chairman this year of the League of Cities, or next year? Or?
I don't have any idea when she will be, when that will happen. I don't know.
Give me a good one.
Yeah.
Thank
She's
you.
a very intelligent lady. Okay, committee reports, Recycling and Corporate Affairs Committee meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Recycling Corporate Affairs Committee did meet on May the 8th, 2017, with all members present and accounted for. Ms. Murphy gave an update on the Horry County Library Build a Better World Summer Program and pledged the support from the Solid Waste Authority for that program. Ms. Murphy also advised the committee of the Blog Pause Conference 2017 for pet owners to use social media, dated that conference the 17th through the 20th last week. Ms. Murphy brought us up to speed on the salvage sale out at Coastal Carolina University and the way that that program worked, and that we were in full support of that. She also reminded the group of the SWANA conference, which was held the 10th through the 12th. There were no action items and no votes taken. That's my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the committee have anything else they'd like to add? All righty, we'll go to the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Administration Committee met May the 16th, 2017. All members present and accounted for. Ms. Bidding gave an update on the Charleston contract, which we just heard. Very good results again this month there. We also had Mr. Roddy Dickinson, the Horry County Treasurer, to attend. He gave a presentation on South Carolina laws pertaining to investments of excess monies and the current procedures. Mr. Dickinson has used Wells Fargo Security Investments out of Charlotte for years. He stated that he felt comfortable with them. The committee discussed this roundly, expressed concern about the lower amounts of return, although Mr. Dickinson said, he wanted to make sure that these monies were protected and keep the risk very low. But in the future, the committee has asked that the new treasurer attend a meeting and also bring Joe Williams of Wells Fargo for discussion. He thought that was a good idea as the transition took place to the new treasurer, and so I think we'll definitely want that to happen and talk about potential ways that we could possibly increase the returns without increasing the risk to the point that the organization doesn't have the appetite for. But that'll be the plan going forward, and for the monies, the excess monies, there was no action items and no votes taken.
Thank you. Do any of the other members have, Mr. Gray?
We did discuss performance issues, and generally speaking, he said, well, I can't speak to that right now, but I will come back. And as you just pointed out, he's going to bring some people with him that can help him. I know that probably to a large extent, he's bound, and that means we're bound by very conservative measures put in by county council. But I do think there's some room for improvement, and I'm glad you pushed that point.
Agreed. I think that you're absolutely right. The South Carolina laws dictate how the funds can be invested, but I think that rather than being so conservative that it limits the amount, even though the point was made that there has been more interest income made this year than was budgeted, that's a good thing. However, I think in looking at what the potential could be, we'd like to find a better sweet spot potentially, if at all possible.
To that, I'd like to make a motion. In Mr. Dickinson's presentation, he told us that there was a local government investment pool of approximately $10 million, and that's used for basically short-term needs, and we participate in that. I don't think that's a bad thing, but we have approximately $19,250,000 in securities that are in low-bearing bonds with the Federal Home Loan Bank, and we could do better than that. And I think we have a new opportunity. In 4 to 5 weeks, we're going to have a new treasurer. And I'd like us to be on the action edge and ask staff to prepare a memorandum to the new treasurer that she secure proposals for an intermediate fund and a long-term fund, intermediate for long-term for post-closure and intermediate for projects like the next piggyback. That way we can go out and get the best proposals for how those funds could be used, safety, and of course meeting the law, but she could shop better rates than what we've been provided. And if we take action by requesting it as she comes in, maybe we'll get action on it. But as those bonds roll over, we should find alternate securities for those investments.
I think Mr. Gray mentioned a name, Hugh Martin, a local broker who I think is very experienced in this type of investments, and I'm sure there's others out there.
It's a specialty field, and I
Right.
think we should take advantage of people who are out there who could help us.
Right.
And your motion would be what?
That we ask staff to prepare a memorandum to the treasurer proposing that she seek proposals on an intermediate investments and long-term investments to meet our needs as our bonds roll over.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion?
Would we do that before Mr. Williams comes? We kind of discussed at our committee that Mr. Williams would come, or would he be part of that? Eligible to?
My idea would be that it be delivered such that when the new treasurer got there, it would be on her desk.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd give staff time to prepare it, and it might be information that would help in that application.
And certainly, Mr. Williams. I don't know Mr. Williams out of Charlotte. Obviously, he's been doing it a long time with the current treasurer, but he would certainly be eligible to provide a proposal as well as anybody else that could, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That's a great proposal.
We will prepare this document, but it will be a new sheriff in town, and I want to make sure that our request is taken in the kind of the right manner, and I don't know if this gentleman from Charlotte will be, I don't think we will see him here prior to her taking her office, but we'll certainly get on speed dial with her and make sure that, we want her to know that we are aware of it and want to be taken care of. And, Roddy said some of them, he never hears from them, and I certainly want to get on maybe a quarterly basis with her to get some kind of reports back, but it's going to be a different, it'll be a different treasurer's office, I do believe.
Thank you. Is there any old business? Okay. New business, the nomination committee appointments. I would like for Lance Thompson to chair that. I would like for Mr. Michael Hughes to be on that nomination committee, and I would like for Mr. Dan Gray to be on that committee, if the three of y'all would consider doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Blow me over with a feather. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, I'll be there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And if I could, while we're together, the council meeting is scheduled for June the 6th. I hope that by that time we'll have final confirmation on our board makeup. I'd like to schedule that meeting for the morning of the 7th, if at all possible, 9:30-ish here, if it suits the committee, following the June the 7th.
June 7th.
Just following that Wednesday morning, hopefully, the council meeting the night of the 6th, we'll have that decision made, and we can move forward with the 9:30? Okay. Okay. All day?
No, I should be through by midday,
Okay,
in the afternoon.
Anytime's okay for me.
okay.
I live on mailbox money. That means
I don't live on money, so I have
I'm bush killing on my own self.
What, right after lunch?
after lunch will be fine.
1:30?
1 o'clock, 1:30.
Yep, 1:30?
Fine.
Okay.
So-
We'll set that at 1:30, nominating committee here, 1:30 on the 7th. Thank you. Committee.
Okay. The fiscal year 2018 budget consideration. Staff have any? There comes Ms. Bidding.
Just, like I said, just briefly, like I said, to kind of review our process, we held a budget workshop on March 7th, where we reviewed the operating and capital budget with the board, had discussion on any recommendations or changes. We then presented the budget to Horry County at their budget retreat on March 23rd. And then finally, we held our public hearing on May 4th. And so tonight, I'm asking board's approval of the FY18 operating budget that totals $24,488,858, and a capital budget of $9,139,917.
Any questions? Any discussion? Going once. Now's the time.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Bidding.
Third reading should be June 6th, on the June 6th county council meeting. According to Mr. Spivey, it will be, hopefully be under consent agenda, so hopefully everything should roll through quickly. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And what we will be doing tomorrow, we're gonna prepare a letter to the cities and the big haulers that we've approved our budget, It's had 2 readings at the county. Third reading's coming up June the 6th, because they have got to go ahead and kind of start notifying their customers, 30 days. They've got to give them 30 days notice in some form or fashion. And I talked to one down at Paulus and told him I didn't foresee any major problems, but since we've approved ours tonight and consent agenda, hopefully everything will go through.
Thank you, sir. Is there any roundtable discussion? Okay.
Yeah, I would like to say, I admire the work of Jan, and she has been learned, we talk very well. She's allowed me to speak with her individually and in a group and help me understand how our bookkeeping system works. And she's very patient with my dumb questions, and on a couple of occasions when I made a suggestion that we not change information, just present it a little bit different way, she's always been very responsive, and I enjoy and admire her work very much. And if you ever get any extra money, Danny, you ought to give her some of it.
I'll give her yours.
She learned that patience from Mr. Schwarzkopf.
Okay, thank you. We do have an executive session, legal advice regarding upcoming board member appointments. And do we have a motion to go into
So
executive
moved.
session? Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Madam Chairman, I leave my notes with you, but more important than that, I also want you to notice that I printed my
Coming out of executive session, no decisions were made, no votes were taken.
And the matter discussed was the issue of, as listed,
In the agenda?
of reappointment of a board member.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we ask the executive director to forward the information to the county attorney or whatever appropriate party about the position of the board and the legal opinion that was obtained.
Okay.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Mr. Executive Director. Oh, you will do that, I would assume. I'm assuming there's nothing else from staff. Okay, we will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I move. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.